Hello and welcome back to yet another Geek Show where the title says it all. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Dalton.
I'm your host, Josh Keir, and I was 10 minutes late to starting this episode because I was finishing up a quest in Classic WoW.
Josh, you are technically still playing Classic WoW right now. How's that feel?
I am sitting in an inn in Brill and moving my character around every 5 or 10 minutes or so I don't get kicked off of the server for being AFK, because queue times are like 8 hours long right now.
Let's see. I am currently being told 405 minutes for our server, so that's... I don't know what that is in hours.
That's about over 6.
That's about...
That's
it's about I
6
don't
and
get
a
to play
half.
today. That's cool.
Or tomorrow. I am probably the furthest away from it because I'm just not that interested.
Oh, okay. So, Josh, here's what I think is funny about this whole scenario, about me not being able to play right now, is that, so some friends of ours, actually, I don't know how many people in the server I actually know. It might be 4 or 5. It might be 80 of them. I don't know, because no one's using their real names. But we're in a Discord server to play WoW with friends. And by the time I got in here, there had already been polls and discussions about like what server to play on and what to name the guild. And so the group at one point had already chosen one server and started making characters. And then that server was marked as a full population. And they voted to switch to another lower population server. By the time I got in and saw this discussion, all of the servers were marked full or high, including the one we had switched to, which was full. At this very moment, none of them are marked as full, but about a third of them are marked as high, and this is one of them. So, point being, if we had not switched, maybe I would be playing right now.
Yeah, so it's funny because the exact thing that happened is that our guild was originally going to be on the Herod server, which Blizzard came out and said, Herod is the most populated server that we have, and we don't think that any of y'all motherfuckers are going to get to play, so we spun up this other server, Stalag, and maybe some of you should switch there. And that was what... Internally, we had a vote on whether to stay where we were. This was before the servers actually opened up, so some people had some like placeholder characters saved, but you couldn't actually play yet. So there was really nothing to lose in terms of do we keep this? Do we stay on the server we're at or swap to this new one? We ended up deciding to go to the new server, and as it turned out, so did absolutely everybody on the old server, which ended up leaving the old server massively underpopulated compared to this new server, Stalag, which is now the most populated server. So, the moral of the story is, I really don't know. Never do anything because it's always wrong. That's the moral of the story.
As someone who just simply doesn't really play online games, these problems are all alien to me. This has been a fantastic welcome to the MMO experience.
It's funny because stuff like this, which objectively sucks, is in my mind kind of... I don't want to say it's the entire MMO experience, but a lot of the memorableness from MMOs, and especially classic MMOs like WoW Classic, or if you ever played RuneScape back in the day, or any of those older games, is that even if stuff sucked, while you were playing the game, it was a collective suck that you all shared. And you as players or a community kind of like bonded over everything shitty that was happening, or, everybody's bonding over having to wait for 7 hours to get in the queue. If you're not like me and have a girlfriend that works at home that can put you in the queues at lunchtime and come back and jiggle your computer every hour until you get home from work. Thank you, Kyla. I love you so much. Yeah. But I don't know. There's a camaraderie in kind of the weirdness about these older games. And while I wish that
it sort of reminds me of like I went to a launch title release at a local GameStop for what was it? Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Okay, yeah.
And like I brought my 3DS and like a buddy loaned me a game to beat, and I beat it and got as much Pokemon as I could, and we all were just like sitting there for hours trading and battling and just kind of waiting for everything to get underway so everyone could buy their game and go home. And it was kind of cool. And that, like what you're talking about, really kind of reminds me of that.
And I miss midnight launches for games. They really don't have them the way that they used to anymore, especially because most of the time you're pre-ordering games because it's just the like objectively superior experience at this point. You pre-order a game and you preload it digitally, and as soon as it dings midnight, you can log in and play. But there was always something so fun about those kind of midnight releases. It'd usually be like a GameStop or something like that. I remember the last one I remember going to was actually for Super Smash Brothers for the Nintendo 3DS when that came out in like 2015, whenever that came out. And I was at the GameStop near my local college, which I had just graduated from. So that was kind of cool to go back there, and you know, people are camping out for hours to get this game, and they're having like little tournaments. I think the demo was out at that point, so they're almost like mini conventions or like club meetings. It's just kind of cool when you go somewhere with somebody and y'all know you're there for the same thing, so it's really easy to like connect with people because you just have this common ground out in the open.
I'll tell you what though, the last time I went to anything that was kind of like a release party, it was a Toys R Us to get my Nintendo Switch when it like came out. And the Toys R Us, I went to the night before to see if they had any, because it was like the third day after it came out, after the Switch was released. And they were like, we had people lining up at the door at 5 a.m. And keep in mind, this was March, and it's super cold over here in lovely Ohio in March. And I was like, you know what? Fuck them. I'm going to get there at 4 a.m. I get there at 4 a.m. I'm the first person there in my crappy 2002 Pontiac that barely worked, and I sat under a blanket in probably 3-degree weather for 6 hours in my car waiting for this place to open. Met some cool people while I was there, but like what one of the takeaways was, I remember being there, and as soon as they hit the open sign on the door, like we all started walking. But like somebody was like, wow, I'm first in line. I can't believe it. And I'm just like, man, I've been here for so many hours before you. like people didn't show up until 5 a.m. And like they seen my car, and we were all talking, and we were like, hey, so this is really cold out here, ain't it? Like we just kept talking, and oh man. But yeah, I met some good people. I actually made a friend who was also a musician, which was really cool. So we were talking music and stuff, and then I went home and played my Switch and played Breath of the Wild for 12 hours straight and ignored that new friend.
As you do.
Oh, yeah.
I waited in line for over 24 hours for the Nintendo Wii when it came out in like November of 2006, I think it was.
Wow.
My best friend Cody and I, we both camped out at the Walmart. At the Walmart in our hometown, and the early part of that was spent outside in November in the freezing cold. We definitely had blankets. Eventually they let us inside the store to wait. They actually ended up shepherding most of us down into the lawn and garden section where we holed up for the entire day.
So you could buy another tent just in case you got really cold.
What was actually really nice with this back then is they actually, after a while, kind of came and gave out numbers to the people that were in line, saying like, hey, you've been here for 12 hours at this point. We're gonna give you guys some tickets to like prove that you were like the positions you were in line. I think we were respectively third and fourth people in line, which the takeaway from this is that we were not the first people in line. So I guess you win, Alex, this round. The other thing that I learned is that pizza delivery companies will actually deliver pizzas to the middle of the Walmart lawn and garden section as long as you say that you promise that you're not fucking around on them.
Yeah.
Because we ordered pizza, and they delivered it right to the middle of the lawn and garden section.
Oh, that's so
and
funny.
the guy came up to us and was like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I expected there to be nobody here to take this pizza.
I'm surprised that doesn't happen to them more often, to expect it. I mean, at the time.
Oh, man.
Today, they'd be rightfully confused.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
while sitting in line for over a day waiting for the Wii to come out, I sat down and played the entirety of The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap in one sitting. To this day, that's the only time that I've ever actually played that game. So I have a lot of fond memories of it, even if I don't actually remember most of the game, because I was played.
I think you mean you have one fond memory of it.
You're right, actually. I guess I do only have one memory of this game, and it's that. It's more the circumstances in which I played it more than the game itself. I guess I remember liking it, but I probably should play it again at some point.
I'm looking forward to
we'll
playing
find out
that.
one day on yet another Geek Show Spotlight.
I'm looking forward to playing that because I don't have to emulate it as long as I can find my SP charger. It's sad because I was also the kid that needed to be dancing on the razor's edge at all times, and I don't know if you guys know the tribal Game Boy Advance SP where it had like tribal tattoos on it.
Okay, no.
Yeah,
I don't
look it
remember
up.
those.
It's so that way kids shouldn't mess with you on the playground.
Oh.
Yeah, they know not to fuck with you because you have tribal tattoos on your Game Boy.
The Game Boy Advance prior to SP was my last handheld until the Switch.
Wow. I watched a video on console variations and I seen like there was like a forward version of the Game Boy Advance or something. Like there was like a Marlboro version of the Atari Lynx. Like it's nuts, man. Look it up. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Like the one that I thought was super cool was the Pikachu N64.
Oh man, I remember wanting that so fucking bad back in the day. If you look up pictures of
his cheeks lit up for the power.
If you look up the pictures of it right now, it's cheesy as shit. But I was like 8 when that thing came out, and I would have sold you my mother for it.
Did it come with Hey You Pikachu?
I think it actually came out before Hey You Pikachu, because I did end up getting that game.
Fun fact, Dalton and I didn't know we were related back when he had Hey You Pikachu, and my family visited his house while he wasn't there, and I played his copy of Hey You Pikachu.
Boy, I bet you're glad you did.
Yeah, it was the weirdest experience ever. And I don't know, can you emulate Hey You Pikachu yet?
The last time I checked, you could not.
Aw, damn.
The last time I checked, I was really hoping you could just use any old microphone, but it turns out it is a little more complicated than that. Unfortunately.
Oh, man.
Or perhaps fortunately, because if you could have, I would have.
I think that I still have the N64 microphone peripheral for that game somewhere in my basement. If for some god-awful reason you guys want to get in a Hey You Pikachu session, I'm pretty sure I can make that happen.
Gimme. We need it.
That's the best and worst thing you've ever said to me.
Oh, that's funny. Speaking of microphones, I had to buy a new microphone because we are working on music, Dalton.
We are.
And
touche.
Yeah. I thought that was a great segue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I know we touched base on it with our spotlight with Daniel. Well, our episode with Daniel Tidwell.
Where his microphone made us look like chumps.
Yeah, which made me think, man, I need to up my game if we're going to record. So I'm still working out the kinks with it, but yeah, we're working on a video game cover album. We talked about it a little bit there. So I don't have much to talk about this week because I've been really working on, getting us a track list, I don't even know if we want to call it like a video game cover album because we're talking about throwing like TV themes and shit into it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know.
It's whatever.
I just wanted
You'll
to
see.
I just wanted to plug that in here for the true cult fans that listen to Yet Another Geek Show that are going to be listening to that album. You could be like, "Oh, I remember when you talked about this like 5 years ago and it never happened." So there you go.
2 albums of original content are being recorded at the same time, and so now that I've said that on air in public, let's find out if 5 years from now we've finished one of them. That would be great.
You think people are going to be looking us up in 5 years?
Oh boy, I hope not.
Only in police reports.
Yeah. Oh shit.
All right. I do want to talk more about WoW and our experiences with MMOs in general, but I also have a pile of a backlog here still, as I have for the last month and a half. So I'm just going to throw one thing out there, and then maybe we'll get back to it shortly. Have either of you watched The Boys yet?
Well, to cut you off, no matter what, Josh is getting back to WoW.
Oh yeah, have you moved your mouse recently?
Yeah, thanks. I've got my dude up on the other monitor. I know that when he sits down, I'm considered AFK, so I have to bump something to get him up.
What about Kyla's? Did you move it?
She's still standing. We're good.
Okay, cool.
Did you move mine?
No, you're not even in the game, buddy. Get good.
Oh. I'm just going to move it anyway. It makes me feel
What
involved.
class are you playing, by the way?
Have either of you watched The Boys yet?
I've only seen bits and pieces of The Boys. I haven't watched it.
I have not watched
it.
The Boys.
Have you seen marketing for it? Are you aware of
I
what
do
it
not
is,
know,
Josh?
but it sounds like something that I should know what it is because my character's
Sounds
name
like something
in
for
WoW
Saturdays.
is For the Boys.
Do you only play WoW on Saturdays?
It's not
Except
Saturday
for today.
now, so I guess not.
All right, me and The Boys.
Get yourself a cold one.
The Boys is an Amazon Prime original comic book adaptation.
Now that you say that, I remember seeing a billion ads for it on YouTube, so now I'm vaguely familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my Fire Stick is still advertising it to me on the home screen, even though I watched it a month ago. So work on your algorithm, Amazon. Thanks.
Careful, we kind of have a sponsorship with them.
That said, no, it's fantastic. It's when the only marketing I'd seen, I don't think I ever actually watched a trailer. I just saw like a couple screenshots and I thought, this looks stupid. Like it just looked like, someone just said, let me make a superhero story. And then I don't know, that I think they tend to be kind of bad by default until proven otherwise. I just assume it's going to be bad, which maybe doesn't make a lot of sense to say as a comic book reader, but I guess I mean, this is a comic book adaptation and I wasn't aware of the original comic book. And so I guess I mean, when someone comes up with an original superhero idea for TV and movies, it tends to be terrible. So low expectations, but watched it because someone told me to anyway. And what the attempt to do here is the word realism gets thrown around a bit to describe particular superhero shows. This isn't realism in the sense of like Watchmen minus Dr. Manhattan or like Kick-Ass. It's not like, what if people just decided to be superheroes and there's no powers? It's not that. People have powers. The realism is, what would this actually do to the world?
It's more the government aspect of it. The governing of it. Yeah.
I mean, it's social stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, the government. So there's like a business that puts together their own Justice League, and now these superheroes who are actual superheroes, they're also shitty people and kind of actually the villains of the show. But these superheroes are also like kind of influencers, I guess. They're told to behave a certain way by a corporation. And then kind of the heroes of the show, it's kind of flipped on its head. There's non-powered beings here that in a lot of stories would be played as kind of the terrorists who are after the good guys. but you get sometimes you're conflicted. Everyone on every end is shitty people, but it's interesting in that the organized group of superheroes are definitively by the end the antagonists, and the terrorists going after them are the protagonists. But the realism extends into just what it does to people's social lives, how the government reacts to it, how businesses react to it, and a really big one is what superpowered violence looks like.
Yeah.
One character is kind of a Superman, Captain America kind of crossover, and he's the leader of the group. He's wearing like a Captain America sort of costume with a cape, and he basically has Superman's power set. And when he, like, say, I-beams people, like, it's horrific. It's not, with Superman, it's always cartoon violence that doesn't actually
They get knocked over or
like,
flung across the room.
This looks like actual, like, terrifying gore. It's
like
disgusting, and it's
gross.
what it really looks like. And a very early scene of the show, before you even know what it's about, without spoiling it, involves a heroed character accidentally killing a civilian, and it is like a horrifically gruesome, unexpected, well, I can't say unexpected if I just said it. I'm not throwing out the details, how it happens, what characters it happens to, but it's the catalyst of the main protagonist. I'll just say that. But in a world with so many superhero stories, and I've read and watched so many of them, this managed to stand out as really unique to me. I mean, even though we've seen so many that are, what if superheroes were gritty, or what if they were realistic? This managed to do it in a way I haven't really seen elsewhere. Also, Carl Urban is one of the main characters in this show, and I've seen him in a million other things, but this is easily my favorite role of his. And I now think that he was wasted in Thor Ragnarok, because that man should be Wolverine.
Well,
there we go. That's my review. Carl Urban for Wolverine retcon.
And Keanu Reeves for yet another geek show.
Oh yeah, we got to work on that.
Yeah.
We had one guest on the show. Tweet Keanu Reeves for us to be our second guest.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll come on to spotlight The Matrix 4. Thank you, Keanu.
I was gonna make some
I was thinking
really
he would
bad
spotlight
joke about-
Constantine too.
I was gonna make some really bad joke about that being a breathtaking possibility, but I'm not going. I'm not going to make that
No,
joke.
you're
so
breathtaking.
You're welcome.
All right. Whatever else you guys want to share before we jump back into
in our episode with Daniel Tidwell, since then, I marathoned Disc 2 of Final Fantasy VII, and I'm on Disc 3.
Want to refresh my
So that
memory
was
of
cool.
where Disc 2 ends? Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert is that you land in the crater, and that's like where Disc 3 starts.
Oh, that's right. Disc 3 is really short compared to the last two discs.
Yeah. I didn't realize that, like, like with Final Fantasy VIII and 9, like, they have the map.
Be careful of spoiling for me.
Do you know about the sub?
It's hard to answer because I don't know what I don't know. I know what I know.
Where are you?
The last thing I did was get the second huge materia. I do know of things that happened past that point, but I don't know everything.
Okay. Well, maybe. Well, Josh, you can understand my appreciation for the sub then.
Oh yeah.
It has like a mini game, doesn't it?
No, it's a great sandwich.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I didn't realize that there was more to this game than just the basic stuff that most Final Fantasies entail. And I'm really gaining an appreciation for the story, especially because I did things so out of order. I watched Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, then I played Crisis Core, and then a decade later, basically, I'm playing the original content. So I don't know. I really gain an appreciation kind of knowing the aftermath while like looking at like the current events of it. You know what I mean? Like, well, Crisis Core was the before of it, but like seeing how they all kind of mingle together is really cool.
So since you're mentioning Final Fantasy spin-offs, I just want to share the observation that I believe it was Josh had
Oh
this
my god,
weekend
yeah,
that,
this is a hot fucking take.
Uh-oh.
Dirge of Cerberus is the Shadow the Hedgehog of Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, it absolutely is. It
Oh my god,
hands down.
On so many
Dalton,
levels.
we were going down the line with every comparison you could make. It's literally spot on.
Yeah, the only difference is it makes sense for Vincent to have a gun.
Right, because it was like
So-
canonically established that he uses guns already.
Yeah.
But
I liked the game in the regards that it did tie in with oh shit, what was his name? It wasn't Angeal. It was the dude that wore the
Genesis.
red with Sephiroth. Genesis, thank you. And him and Omega, which if I'm not mistaken, because like I went back like when I was a kid, like I played that game a lot, and I got the alternate ending where Genesis ends up meeting Omega, who is another character, which I think actually is one of the weapons in 7, I think. I don't know. I heard something like that.
I don't know, Final Fantasy is weird.
There's so much in 7 that it's hard to figure out.
Yeah.
But
But this comparison, though,
it's so
we got
accurate.
the gun, we got
The good and bad
the
choices.
red and black color-themed badass.
Yeah.
We got that. Just that, like, it's an edgy spin-off of something that's not that edgy.
Mhm.
It's a PS2 game. That doesn't feel like stretching it to me, if only because, Alex, there are 3 PS2 games that I still own physical copies of, and those are 2 of them.
I know. No,
the Illuminati theme is going off in my
I'm-
brain right now.
No, I'm agreeing entirely with you guys that Dirge of Cerberus is totally Shadow the Hedgehog. I've made that similar thought comparison and just never spoken it aloud. But if I had to pick which one I'm gonna play, it might be Dirge of Cerberus. If I had the machine gun in Shadow's hands pointed at my face, which one do I play?
I know the audience didn't see your body language there, but you just got really defensive, like we were going to disagree with you.
No.
Like we
yeah.
were about to defend Shadow the Hedgehog.
I was trying to make my hands look bigger than they are. This is how you apparently load an assault rifle.
I'm pretty sure, gun to my head, I had to choose one of those games to play. I would just pull the trigger.
I was just gonna say, are you about to eat lead?
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute. Is Dirge of Cerberus actually bad? Because I haven't played it since the month it came out.
I don't remember it being spectacular.
It was weird. Like it wasn't. I remember playing it a second time later on in my life, and I don't remember hating it. It just felt weird.
It seems like a very, like, we're trying to make a game that appeals to fans of Final Fantasy VII, which is a methodical turn-based RPG. So let's make Devil May Cry and call Dante Vincent. And I just don't see how they were supposed to like appeal to, like, you get all the convoluted story of Final Fantasy VII with none of the gameplay or probably any of the other characters you've grown to love. So there's like a huge time investment to get the backstory of this game that you're not gonna.
He also turns into a demon.
There we go. There we go.
Oh my god.
Wow. I don't remember that much about either of these games.
Doesn't Dante wear red and black too?
Yes. Yes, he does.
Has Dante been Shadow the Hedgehog, been Vincent Valentine all along? It's just edgy red and black gun boys all the way down.
This has been the series finale of yet another Geek Show. Thanks for listening.
We're all going to wake up tomorrow
Oh my
having suffered
God.
tragic accidents in our sleep. I've gotten too close to the
Okay,
truth.
well,
Oh my god.
well, I am utterly thrilled with the way this conversation has gone. I've gotten distracted from my primary Switch game of Final Fantasy VII by Josh's primary Switch game of Fire Emblem Three Houses.
So does that mean that you stopped playing Wargroove?
That's my primary laptop game.
I was just gonna say, you have been playing Wargroove. You've been talking about it with me off air. Have either of you played as Joker or Hero yet in Ultimate? Smash Ultimate?
I've played
Very
as
little,
both of them.
like one match each.
Josh, I've played as Hero, and I equally love what they did with him as much as I hate it.
I fucking hate him. So, his design is...
It strikes me as a clever idea that doesn't
His
work out.
design is great,
Yeah.
but they got way too cute with it, and, like, the game suffers because of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, like the whole MP bar and then having the drop-down menu of his spells. Like,
I like that.
I thought that was really cool.
I like that.
No, I think it's really cool, but at the same time, like, it is such a hindrance on the pacing of every fight.
Well, what I have a problem with is the fact that his smash attacks can randomly critically hit and kill you at ridiculously low percents out of nowhere. When you use his down B, you get a random assortment of 4 spells to choose from, and some of the spells themselves do something random.
Instantly kill.
Some of them also could
Yeah.
either randomly kill you or do nothing, and some of them
Yeah.
might actually just cast a random spell. There's way
Yeah,
too
some
much
of them,
coin
like
flipping
Hatchet
going
Man.
on for heroes
Yeah.
in a fighting game where your risks and like punishments for errors in execution are supposed to be very clearly like laid out and understood by people that are going to deep dive into the game to really unravel the fighting system. And it's just impossible to do with Hero because he could do literally fucking anything at any given moment, and it could either destroy you with no chance of you having counterplay, or do nothing and actually actively put the hero player in a bad position, which you don't feel rewarded for even happening because as the player, you didn't engineer that position happening. They just made a stupid... They just made a choice that backfired and they had no way of influencing the outcome.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I know
That's Nintendo not taking the competitive scene seriously.
But I have started the demo for Dragon Quest XI. Is it on 11 now? Yeah,
That's the one coming out
11.
on Switch, yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate it so far. But it's weird because like you only get the 3D mode of the game. You could play the game in either 2D, like the classic Dragon Quest games, or 3D, like the PS2 and upward. They changed the battle schematic, which I'm okay with because like it was really set in its ways, but at the same time it feels weirdly done. Cause like you can move your characters freely around in like a battle arena when you fight, but it's still turn-based. And you can't really control what goes on. You can only watch it happen and move your character around. That's it. Like I haven't messed with it too much, and I don't want to make like a huge opinion yet, but that's how it feels to me. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I'm looking forward to, at least finishing the demo. I only got to play it for like 20-30 minutes.
While not having played that or any Dragon Quest game and not knowing a whole lot about it, I have a praise and a criticism at the same time here, where I love the functionality of switching between the two versions. I hate that it is a Switch-only thing.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about that.
I'm always the first one here to go off on a moral ramble of things I don't like game businesses doing. That is super not cool to me, that you could have already paid full price for this on another platform, and then like on top of that, these are exclusive features for like the weakest powered console of the generation, which means if I've already bought it on it, I don't know what platforms this is on. Maybe it's all of them. I don't know. But if I already owned this on PS4 or PC, then I have a graphically superior version.
Mhm.
And then if I want to experience this functionality of I think they're calling it Definitive Edition or something like that, I now have to play it on a weaker platform.
So
I have to choose.
yeah, normally that's a valid point. I do want to point out that Dragon Quest XI, this game, was originally released for the Nintendo 3DS. And then later, like years later, ported to the PlayStation 4. So the original version of this game was actually, now in probably hindsight, the least definitive edition that could possibly be, because it has the it was released in Japan for the Nintendo 3DS. Oh. Okay, so it came out on PS4 at the same time as 3DS in Japan only, and it took another year to come out on PlayStation in America.
Okay, I didn't think that sounded right.
I wasn't
Okay.
aware of the fact that they released at the same time in Japan.
Okay.
Okay,
So disregard
let me-
everything that I said, because that's just kind of weird.
You know what? There could be
Yeah.
something here that changes my mind. I did know that the 2D version of it was actually like the Nintendo 3DS version of the game. And so I guess I could see this being their only option if, and I don't know this is the case, if Nintendo helped publish that version. Because I know that sometimes Nintendo does publish Squeenix's games. So if this is only on the Switch because it legally only could be because maybe Nintendo helped publish the 3DS version, then okay. But I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just a Dragon Quest fan. Well, I call myself a fan because I've played at least one of the games, and I wouldn't mind playing the other ones. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
The only Dragon Quest
I'll
game
get
that
there.
I've
Morals
played
aside.
is the original Dragon Warrior for the NES, which I played on.
wow.
I played on an emulator at some point. And not to go too deep into a spotlight now, but Dalton, you recently played the first Final Fantasy and was talking about how dated it was.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Quest.
And the first Megami
Dragon
Tensei.
Quest is the original Final Fantasy, but you only have one party member for the entire game. So it's even more dated.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but I liked seeing where, because as just such a huge fan of the RPG series, of like the RPG genre, I just kind of wanted to go back and see the roots, and that was interesting from a scholarly perspective.
Wasn't Dragon Warrior 3 on the Game Boy?
I think so. Yeah, it was.
Because I swore I had a copy of it when I was a kid. And then
It might have been something where like it originally got put out on the NES and they put it on Game Boy later, because they did that a lot with games like that back in the day.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. Because I had that growing up. I never really beat it, but then like I fast forwarded to Dragon Quest VIII, which is a really good game if you've got the time to play it. Because there's a lot of grinding, at least in the beginning of the game. Like, you start at like level 1 and you have to be like level 10 or 12 to be able to beat the first boss. And that takes at least like an hour and a half just to level up that much, because the gameplay is slow.
And
Hey guys, my queue time dropped down to 2 hours.
hey, there you go.
There you go.
That must be everyone else leaving the queue.
Yeah, we're getting
Without
closer.
getting in.
Getting closer to late night here. And lots of kids are going to bed.
All right, I mentioned Fire Emblem like 10 minutes ago. Let's jump back into that.
Sorry.
So I'm hesitant to talk too much about it, because while I think I have close to 40 hours played on Fire Emblem Three Houses already, not anywhere near done. As far as I can tell, I'm about at the halfway point.
Wow.
Without
Of one house? Of one story?
house, yes. This is a massively friggin' huge game. Each house...
Does it play like regular Fire Emblem games? Let me just ask that.
It plays like a regular Fire Emblem game where in between missions, you're playing Persona 5. And
how much is it? Is it a new game? Like it's still like $60?
Yeah,
price
it came
tag?
out like 3 weeks ago.
Brand new.
Let me say this.
Okay. I want to pick it up.
Oh my god, I could not recommend it any harder. I adore this game.
All right, Spotlight in 3 years when we finish it.
Well, you know what? Dalton, you said you were playing in the Black Eagle house, right? And I chose the Blue Lion house. So, Alex, if you want to get it and do Golden Deer, we'd see all the routes we'd see all the houses that way.
Team instinct through and through, Alex.
I love how you guys give me like the bitchiest sounding house. Golden Deer.
Yeah, you
should have started playing
Golden
sooner.
Deer is the meme house, and it actually has the coolest leader, I think, out of all of them.
Who?
Claude.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen a lot of the promotional materials for the game. He's the guy who wears yellow. He uses a bow.
Ugh.
It's okay. You can make
I like swords.
You can make your characters do anything in this game.
Do we see any iconic characters in this game? Like, I don't know, like Marth, for example?
No, and that's what I love about it.
Okay.
Fire Emblem, much like Final Fantasy, the games really aren't interconnected from each other. And if you got into the series with Awakening, which a lot of people did, that game in particular was like set couple thousand years into the future of like the original Fire Emblem, so they were making a bunch of callbacks to Marth and things like that, but that's not something that normally happens within the franchise. So no, it's completely disconnected from any other Fire Emblem game in terms of world or story or lore. So it's actually a perfect point to jump into the franchise if you've never played it before. And I think it's really accessible because the fact that you're actually like managing your students at the academy, and there's a heavier emphasis on the social aspect of the game, and like not only like getting to know your characters, but having them get to know each other and build like friendships that way. The out of combat loop in this game is the best that it's ever been in Fire Emblem. Earlier games would just literally railroad you from one battle map to the next battle map, and that was the entire game. And don't get me wrong, like I loved that. I started playing this series with Ike's first game, Path of Radiance. And
I was just gonna say, wasn't that Path of Radiance?
Path of Radiance was Ike's first game. I went back and played the Game Boy Advance ones, and
I played the Sacred Stones was my first Fire Emblem.
That's a great game. That's a great game.
Yeah.
But yeah. So even that one had a little bit extra of an emphasis on out-of-combat stuff, because you had the world map on that game, and you could get into random battles with like monsters and stuff, which was a first for the franchise at the time. I'm rambling. I love Fire Emblem, but I hated the direction that the series had gone on the 3DS. Fate's not being good is not a hot take. Not many people liked that game a lot. A lot of people liked Awakening, and I did not. That's maybe more of a lukewarm take, but it just...
I got to the very end of Awakening, and I was like... I liked the mechanic that, you know, if your characters died in battle, they didn't die for good.
See, I'm too much of a hard ass. I loved the fact that you would lose your characters forever if you fucked up. So I never... Even when they started giving you the option to turn off that mechanic, I never did. Because I always just felt like it made me so much more invested in the gameplay and what was happening.
I think we need to give a theme song to Josh eventually here, Dalton, and just the name is just Josh is a hard ass. I don't know, man. Like, you're wearing this deep blood red, and like it's glowing off of your face, and you're just like, well, I ain't no bitch. I let my characters die, man. Like, there's just something about it that, like, I can just hear just this angry music behind you. I love it.
Alex, he said to me this weekend that he's played through Lisa 5 or 6 times.
I played 30 minutes of it, like, 2 weeks ago. And...
You played 30 minutes before you quit? I at least made it like at least halfway.
I got to it very late in the night, and I was like really tired, and I was like, maybe later, because like it wasn't feeling like it was my thing when I started it. So I just never went back to it with a fresh, start.
Yeah. Okay, before we go off on another tangent, Josh, do you have any more thoughts?
I'm gonna save my deeper thoughts on Three Houses for at least when I've finished this playthrough. I don't want to spoil too much because Dalton, you're playing it, and Alex, you might play it, and I don't know how much. I don't know how much like promotional material you've seen, or how much any of you, either of you, know about how the story unfolds going in. Because
I like to go into this game as blind as possible.
There you go. Then I won't say. Based on what was spoiled for me that happens in the story, I'm pretty sure I'm about halfway through.
Okay.
And if I ever stop playing World of Warcraft enough to finish it, I'll have more thoughts at that time. But so far, I love the game, and if it continues to be as good as it was, it's probably going to take over Radiant Dawn's place as my favorite game in the franchise.
Whoa. Because I know that one's pretty critically acclaimed.
I thought you were about to say Sekiro as my favorite game of the year.
You know what? It's actually in competition, and I don't say that lightly.
Yeah. All
right, there we go. Huh. All right. Back to WoW, which I thought we would get back to quicker, and I was just going to let it occupy 80% of the episode. Josh, you've never played.
I never have played before.
I've never played. Alex, you've played a little. I think you said you tried once. Original, retail, not classic.
When it was a long time ago. When it first came out, long time ago. I had a friend who
Josh,
had it.
what was your interest in jumping back in? Jumping in the first place.
Well,
yes.
For one, this is living out my my childhood dream, because as a kid I always wanted to play World of Warcraft but was not allowed to because my parents didn't want to pay $15 a month for me to play a video game when I had dozens of other video games that I could play for free, and I wasn't about to get no job, so I couldn't afford it myself. Therefore, I spent most of my youth playing Guild Wars, which was the poor man's WoW back in the day. So, for one, now that I am a grown adult man, I can now come home from my 9-to-5 job and ignore all of my household responsibilities and let the grass grow 8 feet high and play World of Warcraft instead of, interfacing with the other parts of my life, which is something I've wanted to do forever. Not only that, I've just fallen into a circle of people that are all like my best friend. My best friend played a ton of WoW back in the day, and he loved it so much, and he was so excited for it. Kyla grew up playing WoW, and she loved it so much. She was so excited for it, and just throughout our circle of friends, there were so many people that had played WoW, so excited for Classic, and they all wanted to start a guild together, and I just felt like I wanted to be in on that. It's like a big... It's a... WoW Classic, and I feel like I'm not alone in saying this, it's almost a more of a social event than a game. It's a ton of people that are probably, mid to late 20s, early 30s, around our age, that are all going on a massive nostalgia trip for what, for many people, it seems like was the defining game of their childhood or their adolescence. And it's actually just really exciting to be part of that. And even though I missed out on all of that back in the day, I will say after playing this, I've been playing for 4 hours. My character's level 9.5. It definitely does feel like stepping back into an older age of game design. And I'm really enjoying the absolute, complete, utter lack of hand-holding that's going on in this game. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. You pick up a quest, you have to read the quest description that the NPC gives you to have any idea where you're supposed to go. Doesn't mark it on your minimap. You don't know what you're supposed to kill.
Yeah.
And it all sounds horrible, but I love it.
Now, is this a monthly subscription thing? Do you have to buy WoW Classic
You
at
do
all?
not have to buy it. The way that this works is that if you have a regular World of Warcraft subscription, that Classic WoW is included. And
Nice. Okay.
I didn't know this until I started looking into it, but World of Warcraft it's not free to play because you always have to have a subscription to play, but you don't have to make a purchase to play all of the existing World of Warcraft content up until the most recent expansion, which you do have to purchase to access. So if you wanted to play on the retail end, if you wanted to play Battle for Azeroth content, you would have to pay the expansion price for that game. But if you just buy like Game Time or a subscription, you can play all of World of Warcraft up until, I think Legion was the expansion before that. You can play all of that just off of your subscription fee. And Classic is now rolled into that as well. So I haven't purchased World of Warcraft. I just bought 90 days of Game Time, and we'll see where I'm at the end of those 90 days. But having spent one day, the better part of one day in queue for a game, and a little bit last night playing, a little bit tonight playing, having a lot of fun so far, and so is everybody around me that was so excited for this game. So I think that's a good thing so far. I don't know, it's fun.
Okay, so first of all, similar, I've never played. I'm just kind of enjoying the social element of it, and I'm kind of enjoying, like I've said before, either in person or on the show, that I kind of like to play games as a historian. I'll gladly jump into a game I don't expect to like just because I want to know the history of it. And so I like this aspect of Blizzard, like going out of their way to kind of preserve something. I mean, it's not identical. It is running on the current engine, but it's the best that they could do to throw you back into that experience. Think of it as a remaster of old WoW. So I really appreciate that they're doing that. I've said before that the reason I played Final Fantasy XI isn't because I expected to like it. I didn't. It's because I was worried about the day that would come where I would have to say, oh, there's a numbered mainline Final Fantasy game I didn't get to play, and now it doesn't exist. I like that while technically the same game, they're preserving a version of the game as it once was. I want to show support for that. It's a super cool thing to do. To be honest, I'm not genuinely expecting to enjoy Classic, but I'm enjoying the social aspect of it. And I'll give retail WoW a shot since I have to pay for it anyway to do this. And I did play for a little bit on Sunday, but not long enough to have genuine opinions of my experience. I do have comments about this pay structure, where I similarly have paid for 90 days of subscription, have not actually bought WoW. I kind of have issues with this. Not that there's... My problem isn't with monthly subscriptions. Actually, this is going to sound really similar to my Final Fantasy XI rant. I get it for MMOs. The point is for them to keep developing and growing the game, hence it being different enough today to justify a classic version. That totally makes sense to me. However, I said that this model frustrated me with Final Fantasy XI because that's not a game that's getting major updates. Classic, I assume, will be getting updates for a year or two, but they can't keep updating it forever. At some point, they have to settle on where it is, and then you still won't be able to play it without a subscription. Technically, it's a subscription to retail, but how many people genuinely have the time to put meaningful investment into two different MMOs? At the end of the day, if I'm paying Classic, I'm paying for Classic. I'm not really... Like, in the most technical legal sense, I'm paying for retail and getting Classic, but really I'm paying because I want to play Classic. And that's frustrating to me because it's not... That's not the point of paying for an MMO. The point of paying is for them to keep developing it. The point of playing Classic is for it to stay the same. So why does this come with a monthly fee? I would have rather handed them $60 to get my copy of WoW Classic, and then it is what it is.
Well, besides, how much updating can they do to Classic before it just becomes current?
I do know there will be updates for some amount of time where I believe, Josh, correct me if you're aware of this, but I believe they are going to, for a little while, slowly introduce features in a similar timeline to what originally happened.
They have,
but like only for so long.
They have right now 6 phases of content release planned, and we are at launch in phase 1 of 6. And yeah, they do want to mimic the release of content with how it was released when the game first came out in 2004 over the next, I don't know, year or however much time there was leading up to the first expansion coming out. There hasn't been any indication of them being for or against eventually moving on to re-releasing the first expansion, the Burning Crusade, for Classic. And a lot of people, the opinions I've read online are really torn between some people just want it to stay vanilla WoW in Classic forever, and some people want them to eventually move on and introduce the first expansion's worth of content, and then also eventually go on to the second expansion, Wrath of the Lich King, which from what I understand is pretty much widely considered to be the best that WoW ever was. That being said, people seem to be really torn between what they want. Do they just want to stay on this vanilla server forever and not have the option of continuing to experience like the release of content at the same pace? I kind of feel like eventually you're going to get to the end, all the raids will be released. If you're in a guild that cares about that sort of thing, you're going to clear that content, you're going to get the best items, and there's not much left to do once you've done everything. So if they don't continue to release some kind of content, I feel like this is the sort of thing that, I guess you can't really call it a flash in a pan, because they're going to be drip feeding this content to us over what I'm assuming is at least a year, probably 2. But at that point, if it stops, then I feel like all but the most hardcore of enthusiasts are going to just move on to something else.
Well, there's a point too, is that I have to wonder, I feel like once this hype dies down, you end up with only a very small number of people who this is their main MMO, and this ends up being treated more as kind of a video game museum where you stop by and check out, oh, this is what WoW used to be, but it doesn't actually become your thing. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'll play Classic for a couple 100 hours and realize it's way better than any other MMO available today. And maybe some miracle happens and it overtakes retail WoW, but I suspect it dies down. Not necessarily in a few months, but at some point it dies down and just becomes oh, isn't it neat that this is included and you can go check it out and get bored in a few weeks and move back to your real main MMO?
I do definitely feel like Blizzard and probably a lot of other people have been massively underestimating the amount of hype that Classic is actually generating. I don't know if either of you are aware of this, but
sure.
You know, when Classic launched last night, World of Warcraft had over 1 million viewers on Twitch TV. I've actually never heard of a game surpassing 1 million concurrent viewers on Twitch before.
Yeah.
I'm sure Fortnite's done it at some point, or maybe like Overwatch League or some other game that I'm not like really dedicatedly following. But for at least a brief moment, World of Warcraft was far and away the most watched game on Twitch. Like, there were over 1 million people that, granted, they probably all wanted to play and were stuck in queue, so they decided they were just going to watch somebody else play to just get a little bit of a hit that way. But the fact is that they keep having to spin up extra servers because they're all full.
Yeah.
And those servers fill up.
Yeah.
So they keep spinning up more. And I don't know if it's just kind of if it's just everyone's curious and it's turning into a little bit of a phenomenon.
Yeah.
I do imagine that in probably a month or so, there's going to be a pretty sharp decline in people that tried it out because their friends were trying it out, or there was a buzz about it, decided it really wasn't for them.
Yeah.
So maybe they bought a 1 month subscription and then just decided to let it run out. I'm sure that that's gonna happen, but
yeah,
I also never expected this many people to be interested in this game in the first place. Least of all myself, actually. So I don't know. Maybe there's something here. Maybe lightning can strike twice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to underestimate the hype. I appreciate how big it is, and I'm swept up in it too. But I have to wonder if Classic not having a separate subscription implies that Blizzard kind of thinks the same thing I do, is that this is going to be exciting at launch, but only a handful of people are really going to stick with it. And that if they really thought a lot of people were going to stick there and make it their main MMO, then you would be able to subscribe to it. But instead, it's being sold as, an extra little gimmick to come with, real WoW, retail WoW. Not necessarily better WoW, but WoW as it is. It's being sold as you're really paying for the current game. Here's a fun extra. I feel like that might speak to their mindset a little. I don't think I have anything else to add about this until I actually get to play it. Let's check my queue time, which has not moved in the last however long it's been since I last mentioned it.
That experience, by the way, of sitting in queue forever is, I am told, entirely accurate to the original classic WoW experience as well.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, any time a Blizzard game has launched, the servers have been down for the entire first week. I don't know if either of you were trying to play Diablo 3 at launch.
I feel like it's like they're going to replace the Pokemon Go potatoes, like in the memes, and they're just going to be like, look at it's Blizzard servers now.
More or less.
Oh, look at it. It's funny again.
Diablo 3 was the same way. That game was nigh unplayable for an entire week after it launched because there was just so much hype, and for whatever reason, the scaling technology just either wasn't there, or they didn't want to spend enough money that it would cause server scaling is such a delicate thing because you want to, from the start, you probably want to under-prepare because you always have to assume that the initial spike in traffic is going to be the highest, and then it will level out to something much lower. So if you over-prepare...
Kind of reminds me of the money economy in World of Warcraft Classic, if I'm not mistaken.
If you over-prepare and you can handle the initial load, that's going to mean that down the line, you spun up a bunch of servers that you don't need because the population dropped off drastically, and now everybody's on low-pop servers, and you have to either give out a bunch of free server transfers, in which case, people that have already made friendships or like they're in guilds in the game, they all have to coordinate to move to the same place, and it's just a real big mess. So I do not envy the server engineers over at Blizzard. I actually think that they are doing the right thing by starting with a lower number.
It's like a time before cell phones
and spinning them up.
I agree.
As they continue to fill up, we'll see where things land.
I agree.
In a month, I'm going to be really excited to revisit this. I think.
You took me back to the time era around with World of Warcraft Classic, like when you were in like middle school or high school, and like social media and smartphones really weren't a thing, and like you had to like figure out your new friend's address and have them like mail you a phone number or some shit. Wow.
Different times,
man. It's nuts, man. Like I feel like I have to wait for you guys to call me after 9 because then my minutes will be free. Like
yeah, you can't text me until Sunday because I'm out of texts for the month.
Don't worry, go to Singular, they roll over.
Okay, busy servers leave me with one last comment to make about a couple screenshots I've seen from people who've gotten in, and I don't know how often this is actually happening, or if this was just posed for the screenshots, or if it just happened in one or two servers a couple times. But I've been seeing screenshots of players coordinating and standing in fucking lines together in order to, like, for example, talk to a quest giver. People just standing in a queue waiting their turn to get to the quest giver.
Yeah, so you got thousands of people in the same area who all have a quest to kill the same boss who's on a 1.5-minute spawn timer. The first person, the way that quest completion in World of Warcraft works is the first person who does damage to a creature is the one who gets credit for it when it dies. So if you're not there to tag the thing that you need to get that you need to kill for your quest as it spawns, someone else is going to do it. So it's actually really funny to me to see this isn't something that I have seen while I'm playing, but I've seen a few screenshots of that as well, where there's like a rare boss that people need for a quest, and you'll have 60 gnomes standing in a line, everybody just hanging out and chatting and waiting for their shot at completing the quest. Personally,
waiting for GameStop to reveal that new game.
Personally, I would just go somewhere else and do a different quest. Yeah. But there's only so much patience that I have.
But so it was lines for fighting these particular enemies, but it was also lines returning to the quest giver, because you would have to talk to the quest giver, and then they would sit your reward on the ground, and then you would take it, and then the next person would take their turn talking to them.
When you get a request reward, they place it right in your inventory.
Huh, okay, well, that's what the comments in Reddit told me. I guess I don't know until I play it.
I pray that you will know soon enough.
I hope we didn't knock you out of your server.
I'm still in.
Hey,
cool.
My estimated time went down 1 minute in the last half hour. So that's nice and thrilling.
I think they got the original like Windows XP update code for the queue time estimators in Classic WoW. They're just really bringing you back to 2004.
Oh my god.
WoW Classic is secretly a time machine, apparently, because we've had few nostalgia trips in this episode. What the hell?
Oh, geez. All right, this has been yet another World of Warcraft show. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Goodbye.